is the Emergency Medical Minute.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. So, we do a lot of Foley troubleshooting here, and one issue that could come up, even though I haven't seen it a lot, is where the Foley is actually stuck and we cannot get it out. So definitely could be an issue, and there's a couple things that can cause it, and the main issue would be the balloon not deflating. We see a lot of Foleys that fall out, the balloons kind of go down on their own, but sometimes the balloon might not be able to be deflated. And there's a couple things that we can do. The first thing we want to make sure is that the balloon is not in the urethra, because sometimes if it's like at the upper part of the urethra, then the valve, you can't deflate it. So we want to make sure it's actually in the bladder in a regular spot, and then maybe we could deflate it. If that still doesn't work, then there's a couple things you can do. The problem usually is that the port that you're trying to use to deflate it kind of has become obstructed. And one thing you can do is actually just cut that valve that you would use to deflate the balloon. And you don't want to deflate it too close to the actual catheter, because then the catheter could potentially just go into the penis or the urethra and not be able to get it back. So sometimes you can cut the valve. If you cut the valve and it's still not draining, you sometimes could pass a guide wire, like a central line guide wire, into the port that you would usually use to drain the balloon and kind of declog it. And they've actually talked about if that doesn't do it, you can actually pass a catheter like a central line over that wire, take the wire out, and then that might drain the balloon kind of through the central line. So those are, a couple steps you can do. They've talked about other things that may or may not be great ideas. They've talked about trying to pop the balloon by either just overinflating it. Now, if you pop a balloon, there's going to be bladder debris from that balloon in the bladder that might not come out, so that could be an issue. They've talked about doing like mineral oil into the balloon, because sometimes that will dissolve the balloon, but then you've got mineral oil in the bladder, which potentially might not be a great thing. And then they've actually, this seems crazy, doing a transcutaneous needle to pop the balloon, like with an ultrasound. That seems a little excessive. But the first couple steps, could be pretty simple, and I could definitely see a nursing home sending in a patient for a balloon that they can't deflate unless they need to troubleshoot it. And then kind of the last point of all this is that a lot of times these balloons get occluded when the balloons are inflated with saline instead of sterile water, because the saline can over time crystallize, and then you get crystals in the port of the balloon, and then you can't deflate. So it's always better to deflate any of those balloons with sterile water and not saline. Any questions? Thanks, guys.
Emergency Medical Minute is and always will be about free medical education. Medicine's most prolific podcast is successful because of our supporters, donors, and of course, our listeners. Please like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And if you support spreading free medical education, please donate at our website, emergencymedicalminute.com. As always, keep listening.